About a year ago, I made a change in my studio that sent me back to a beginner level. Well, at least it felt like it. To make a long story short, I stopped mixing on the monitors I had been using for about the past 7 years or so, and I made a pretty heavy investment in the Amphion's that you see behind me. And as if switching monitors wasn't enough, I also stopped mixing with my subwoofer on. Why did I do that? Well, that's a topic for another video. Anyways, after 15 plus years of mixing, all these changes threw me for a loop. It was like I no longer knew what I was hearing, and I felt pretty much deaf as an audio engineer. Not really ideal. But while I was getting used to the new monitoring system, I was constantly second guessing myself. And the worst part about this was that I felt like I could no longer judge the lows of my mixes. The first mix I did on these monitors came out so unbelievably thin, I thought I had lost the ears I had once had. But after discussing this with some friends, a buddy recommended a plugin that I will probably never mix without again. Let's take a look. All right, here's a song we're using for an example today, and it is sort of a punk rock song. I have the vocals muted just so I don't get copywritten here. But remember, we're paying attention to the low end in this song, so mainly the kick drum and in the bass guitar. Now, just to make things a little cleaner, I've just bounced the track and put it in its own project. So what we're going to do now to check the low end of this mix is throw on our magic plugin, Bassroom. Now, just so everyone knows, up to this point, I have never taken money from a plugin provider to show a plugin on my channel. I'm completely independent as of now, and I only really show plugins that I stand behind and use. So Bassroom is a plugin that takes all the guesswork out of the low end of your mix. If you're mixing and constantly guessing on this end of the frequency spectrum, this plugin is going to be a game changer, and it's going to save you a lot of time. What this plugin does is basically break your low end up into 5 bands. So we have 20 hertz and below, between 20 and 40 hertz, between 40, 80, 80 hertz and 160, and then 160 and 320. And then you can take these bands and move them up or down to add or remove gain. Now, how do we know where we should move these to, right? Well, there are a couple ways, and I'll show you the easiest first. So we can use some presets. So if we go down here into the presets, we can see that there are a bunch to choose from. So for this song, maybe we want to say that this fits into the genre of hard rock. I know it's not really hard rock, but let's just say that's maybe the closest. So if we choose this and then play our song, you're going to see this plugin react a little bit. Now, there we go. These little lines is Bassroom telling us where it thinks we should be at in terms of low end in these frequency ranges. So as you can see, we're not too far off for this preset. Now, we can make some of these adjustments. So let's say we want to bring the 20 hertz and below down about a dB and a half. It wants us to move it down. It wants us to bring this range up a little bit. So we try to match it with that line as best possible. So again, up about a dB and a half. Between 80 and 40 hertz, it just wants us up a little bit, little 0.3, 0.4. Between 160 and 80, it's telling us we're pretty dead on for these frequency ranges. And then up here between 320 and 160, it says we have too much. So let's set that down there, and we can play our song and determine, if this sounds better or worse. Now, as I play it, I will occasionally bypass it by hitting this right here. So let's do a before and after. So we'll start with the after, I guess. And that's a pretty outstanding difference. We gained some clarity by taking out all this in the upper low range, and then we also beef up like the low end of the kick, and we just have a more balanced mix, a mix that hits a bit harder and is a little bit more clear from clearing up this mud. And of course, this stuff is really subjective, and depending on your taste, you might like more low end than others. But if you're dropping this plugin on your mix bus and it's telling you you are way off, you can easily see with your eyes that you may have a problem in your mix. Now, let me throw on another instance of Bassroom because I want to show you another cool way that you can balance your low end. And this is what I like to do a lot. So maybe there's a song that you really like, you're really into, and you're really trying to capture that vibe. And you want to make your songs low end as close as possible to that song that you've been listening to. So if we come down to the preset here, we can actually drop files in here. So I'm going to drop this song in here. Again, I'm not going to play it because I don't want to get copywritten, but I'm actually going to just select the intro here and hit create targets. And then we're going to play our song, and it's going to compare the two and tell us where we should make adjustments based on this song we've dropped in here. So let's try that. And there we go. Now we have some other suggestions based on that song that we've dropped in there. And as you can see here again, I am not too far off, which is key. If you're going in here and making big changes, odds are there's something in the mix you need to clean up a little bit or change, maybe boost your kick drum or bass guitar or lower the volume of those. But again, let's make some of these changes here and see the difference in our song. So this wants us to drop this lower region down some. Even wants us dropping that down a little bit. Let's bring this up, and then it wants us bringing from 320 to 160 up a little bit. And let's do a before and after of this. We'll start with before, and we'll bring it in. Again, these are just little tweaks for the most part, but as you can hear, it totally changes the low end of the mix and the vibe of the song. Now, do you have to listen to everything this plugin tells you? Absolutely not. If we want to bring this up because we thought it sounded better the other way, there's no problem with doing that. This is just a guide. And if nothing else, this is just another tool you have to check your mix or reference your mix against other songs. And it really has saved me a lot of time. And like I said, took out a lot of the guesswork when I was really getting used to my new monitors. A couple other things I should mention here is that if you want smaller moves, you can change this 4 dB down to 2 dB, which will means it'll only show you cuts and boosts of up to 2 dB. And if you want more drastic moves, they do have a 6 dB option here as well. Something else that is great is they actually have this level match here so that you can set this to the same level as it was before the plugin was added so that you're not hearing volume differences and you can judge, correctly whether the changes actually improved your mix or, just made them louder. You can also adjust the Q, which could be very valuable. Maybe you need to adjust this region, but you want to narrow the cue down a little bit more between these frequencies so it's not as broad. So you can do that with all the bands as well. It's just an easy and simple plugin to use, and I think it'll save you guys time. So I just wanted to make this video and show it to you guys. Hey guys, if you like this video, make sure and go grab a copy of my home studio mix guide with your go-to EQ and compression settings for all your tracks. And also go ahead and register for my online mix training that I hold a couple times a week so that you can learn how to turn your home recorded tracks into a professional product.